Hi there, in this screencast I'm going to go over how to do regression with the baseball statistics, and this assignment is due on Friday. On Friday. So just to make sure you know what you're doing, here goes. Alright, I'm going to go to the the November 14th posting on Google Classroom. And then I'm going to open the file that says, click on the link that says statistics to use for MLB linear regression example. I'm going to open the complete this document, and lastly I'm going to open Desmos. So I'm going to do a new tab. I'm just going to go to desmos.com, and that's really all I need to do. I don't need to run the app or the extension or anything related to that. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I have my own copy of the baseball stats project. So to do that, I have to open a new window, and I think many of you guys have already done this part already the other day. Then I'm going to do open with Google Docs, and then I'm going to save the file and put my name in the front of it. So I'll just say John Doe, and then if I do, so I can either leave it as a doc or I can save it as a Google Doc, one or the other. As long as it has my name on it, and then I'm going to immediately share it with Mr. Hayden. So I would click the share button and share and start typing L. Hayden. Then now I'm going to go to the statistics file, and I need to make a copy of this as well because you're going to need to do some editing when you're doing the regression, and I believe the document will be read-only unless you make a copy of it. Okay, so I need an example of strong correlation, weak correlation, and no correlation. So I'm going to pick, let's see, something that will have probably no correlation or very weak correlation. So probably I'm going to guess the number of bases stolen. I haven't done this one yet. So that's column S. So I'm going to copy that into the worksheet that says temporary worksheet. So I copy that whole entire column, and then let me guess weight. I doubt there's correlation between how much a player weighs and how many times they steal bases or attempt to or successfully steal bases. Okay, so let's see. Just want to make sure. Yep, there we go. Okay, so now I'm ready to do the regression. So I'm going to highlight just that portion of the spreadsheet that contains all the numbers and the header, and I'm going to copy that. So you can do Control-C if you're using your Chromebook, and then I'm going to or PC for that matter. I'm going to go to Desmos. I'm going to click Start Graphing, and I'm going to paste in my table. So it's going to look like something like that, and as kind of I expected, it's pretty much a blob. I'm going to change the scaling so that it's easier to see. So I'm going to go to settings, and I'm going to, for x-axis, I'm going to do 0 to 50 because it looks like all the data is clustered in between 0 and 50. And then for the y-axis, let me do between 100 and 300. So it's helpful if you, sometimes Desmos does the scaling for you and does a good job of it. Sometimes it doesn't. I'm not really sure why it does sometimes and not the other, but either way, you might want to give it a shot and make your graph look nicer by doing a scale that is relevant to your graph. Okay, so now I have x1 and y1, and x1 is bases stolen, and y1 is player weight. So I'm going to say y1, and then instead of equals, I do the symbol that's to the left of the 1 key in shift, and then it's going to be m x1 plus b. So that's the slope intercept of a line, and kind of surprisingly, well, maybe not surprisingly, I'm actually getting weak correlation between bases stolen and the amount you weigh. So that it looks like the more bases people have stolen, the less they weigh. That could be that, maybe players who weigh less are more, well, actually, you know what? That does make sense. Some of the heavier players, they probably don't run as fast, now that I think about it, and whereas the lighter players are, more flexible, they probably run faster, so they probably successfully steal bases more often. So that's an interesting fact there. All right, so now I'm going to go complete the document, and I need to, while I'm over here, I need to click Share Graph, and if you're doing this on a Chromebook, when you go to click that export button and you go to, I believe, the download, it'll give you the option to copy it to the clipboard. I don't think it does with the PC, but I could be wrong. Actually, you know what? Let me go back to it and check. So I'm just going to put the Desmos graph on my desktop. Alright, let me see if using a PC, if I can do, no, that just is the link to it. Okay, so now I'm going to go into complete this document, and this would count as my weak correlation because the correlation coefficient is in between negative 0.3 and 0.7 or negative 0.3 and negative 0.7. So I'm just going to insert it, and if you were able to use a Chromebook, you can just copy and paste it in. So let me go to Insert Image, and I'm going to do Upload from Computer. Then I'm going to, hopefully in a second it'll come through. And let me see if I can find it. Let me try it again. Insert Image, Upload from Computer. Okay, so I'm going to go to my desktop, and there is my image. So I'm going to paste that in. I'm going to scale it just a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. Alright, so that's my, let's see, do I have it in the right spot? Yes, I do. Maybe no, I don't. Let's try it again. So let me go down to weak correlation. Alright, that's the no correlation, that's the weak correlation. Now let me insert it again. Okay, so there we go. Alright, so I'm just going to get rid of these rectangles. I made the document originally in Word, and they didn't come through very well when it was converted to a Google Doc. So I'm going to just get rid of them, and then I'm just going to type my answers right after where the boxes were. So for variables used, I would say y is player weight, and x is number of bases stolen. The value of r was negative 0.47, and that would have been negative correlation. If you have a negative r value, it means negative correlation. Now, my equation of my regression line. So I'm going to go back to Desmos, and I'm going to look and see what M and B are. M and B are negative 0.578 and 22296. So those are the values that I use in the equation of y equals mx plus b. So negative 0.578x plus 222.96. Was that what it was? Let me go back in. 222.96 or 967. Okay, I already put my scatter plot in there, and just to make my document a little bit easier for Mr. Hayden to read, I'm going to highlight my answers in a different font. Make them red. So I'm going to try to make them red. There we go. And then I already have my scatter plot. Okay, and then it looks like if I'm looking for outliers, I don't think I saw really any obvious outliers. So I'm going to put none for excluded data pairs. So you know you have an outlier if you have a single point that's like way far away from the rest of the data. Okay, and then there's so much lag here. Then for possible reasons for weak correlation, well, I'm going to say it's easier for players who weigh less to steal bases than for players who weigh a lot. Because players who weigh less can probably run faster. And they'd be more nimble. So this makes sense. There are actually some pretty heavy baseball players out there who have some pretty big guts if you've ever seen professional baseball. So picturing them running and trying to steal bases isn't as doesn't look like it would be much easier. Those who weigh more. Okay, so that's my example of weak correlation. And so then I just need to find an example of strong correlation and no correlation. So let me go again and look at the statistics. So if I suspect that there is strong correlation between, let's see, what did we say? Maybe number of hits and on-base percentage. There might be a strong correlation between that because probably hits are the major way to get on base. You can be walked, but I'm guessing more people get on base by hitting than by being walked. And then I would say, well, we know that there's strong correlation between total number of home runs and total number of runs brought in. And I would say, let's see, there might be strong correlation. Well, I know there would be very strong negative correlation between for a team for the number of wins and number of losses, because obviously most teams have played about the same number of games, and if you haven't, the wins and losses have to add up to the same number. So the number of wins would be directly dependent on the number of losses. The other thing you might look at is the batting average. The batting average is way over here, and the slugging percentage, which is total number of bases reached divided by total at-bats. So someone with a high batting average is probably also going to have a high slugging percentage. So that would probably be one that you could check. Also, on base percentage plus slugging percentage versus batting average or number of hits, because those things are obviously closely related. All right, so I hope this was helpful. And remember, the strong correlation has to be correlation coefficient either 0.7, between 0.7 and 1, or negative 0.7 and negative 1. And the no correlation has to be less than 0.3 or greater, in between negative 0.3 and 0.3. Okay, that was my screencast, and that should be enough to show you how to do the assignment. And once again, make sure you share your document with me. Fill out the little form for each example that you used, and have it on Friday. All right, cheers.